I've got many attending peaceful drilling. Are you a school?
Hi everyone, this is Doug Melia and this is the Same Kit Different Day podcast, and today my guest is Dr Vincent Uzomah, who's a lecturer at Salford University. Vincent, how are you?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you, Doug.
Excellent, good. And how's lockdown treating? I know you've been doing some online courses for your students.
Yeah, it's been, it's an unusual situation, unprecedented, but we're
Yes.
coping. We're just having everything done online now. The lecturing, the examination, everything is online now.
Yes.
And we're coping.
Oh, that's good to hear. So, for our listeners, I'd like them to know a little bit about you. So, if you could tell us a little bit about your career path, where sort of you started out and how you got into teaching, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, yes. Thank you for that. I've been a teacher for a long time. In UK, I started a teaching career in a school, in secondary school.
Yes.
Where I was teaching physics and mathematics, and that carried on for about 10 years.
Yes.
When I decided I need to go back to the university, because
Yes.
prior to that I was lecturing in a higher institution. Then after 10 years of teaching in secondary school in UK, I decided to go back to university to complete my PhD and then take up lecturing appointment in the university.
Brilliant.
Yeah, but while I was doing the PhD, or when I was about to finish, I had a short period of time where I was, writing up and waiting for my dissertation final approval.
Yes.
And that period of time, I took up a supply teaching job in a secondary school, and
Yes.
that's where the incident happened. But
That's
after
right.
the incident,
Yeah. So some of our listeners might not be familiar with what happened, because initially I got in touch with you because we actually featured in a documentary together, a French documentary. I don't know if you remember.
For sure, I do remember.
Yeah, so I got in touch with a few people in the clips, and your story really interested me. So yeah, if you could tell us a bit about what the incident that happened when you were supply teaching.
All right. What happened that time? I had a 3 months contract.
Yes.
For 3 days a week, and just in the last week of that 3 months contract, just in the last week,
yeah,
there was a student in the class, a year 10 student, year 10 pupil, and he wasn't regular to school, and
right.
Whenever he comes around, he's quite a challenge managing his attitude. So for that day, that Thursday, he came in, into the classroom. He came in late, so a few minutes late into the classroom.
Yeah.
Running around the corridor with his friends, one of his friends. So they went straight to the back and sat down. And that was quite unusual. So when they sat down, instead of them to be quiet, they started giggling and making noise, drawing attention.
Yeah.
I tried to ignore him to carry on with the lesson. He brought out his mobile phone and started using the mobile phone. So I had to go back to his seat and spoke to him quietly and said he should put away he refused. He said he would not. I said, okay, I'm going to take it from you. He said he will not give it to me. I said, okay, then I have no choice than to call a senior management manager and speak to him.
Yeah.
And then front, just to start off the teaching, I was just trying to write learning objectives, and this boy moved straight to me near the door, the entrance door. So while I was writing that on the board, he came straight to me and pulled out a knife and stabbed me on my stomach.
Wow, you had no real warning to that. I mean, you don't expect behaviour to spill over into that, do you?
no real warning. It was quite I never like that. Ordinarily, what you expect is the kid may just behave, refuse to do the work or keep being chatty in the class, but not to the extent of pulling out a weapon
No.
to stab even a pupil or even a teacher. So it was quite strange. And
Yeah.
when that happened, it was I thought I thought I was dying because previously, a year before then, a teacher was stabbed in legs and the teacher died.
I remember. Yeah.
The lady, she died, and immediately this happened, there was a lot of flashbacks coming to my mind, and instantly I started feeling cold, so I thought I was dying. I thought I was dying, and the only thing that came to my mind is my family. I didn't relate with that. I didn't say bye-bye. I didn't say anything to my family.
No.
Is that how I'm going to die? I started calling Jesus because I'm a Christian. I'm a believer
Yes.
in God, saving grace. So I started calling Jesus, 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 save me, Jesus. I was calling that name. I was being carried. I was being helped by the students
Yes.
to the reception. So I got to the reception. They put me down, lying down. So all I was doing, funnily, I was just staring at it, making sure my eyes did not close. The body rallied around. I was to the hospital, and they carried out an surgical operation.
Yeah.
And I thank God I'm still alive. Now the incident is later on. I started hearing, or I heard from the court, because we went to the court. There I heard that this boy in question had already told his ahead of time that he was going to stab me, the teacher,
Wow.
simply because I'm black and he doesn't like the black teacher. That's what I heard in court. And he also, warned his friends that if they grasped him up, he was going to stab them first.
Wow.
So under that kind of strange environment, his friends knew what was going to happen, but they kept quiet.
Yes.
And that I started realizing probably that's why, because it was premeditated. He already planned it ahead of time. Actually, I was told that he planned to stab me a week earlier.
So it could have happened any time.
A day earlier.
Yes.
But that wasn't one of the days I was supposed to be in school. Remember, I was in school 3 days a week.
Yes.
So he planned to stab me on Wednesday, but Wednesday wasn't the day I was to be in school. So he replanned, brought the knife again to Thursday.
Yeah.
And and unfortunately, that's the day I work. It's quite strange.
Yes.
And then after he stabbed me, I looked around. I turned back.
Yeah.
And saw the kitchen knife in his hand, stained with blood. That's when I realized he had stabbed me. So I shouted his name. What did he do? So I was confused. I didn't know what to do. Whether to grab him, whether to rush. I didn't know what to do.
No, you wouldn't. Your adrenaline would be through the roof. You did really well to keep control.
So he ran out of the classroom, jumped the fence, and ran straight to city center and put in his Facebook that the using swear words. The teacher was funny, and he knifed him in the tummy. That's what he was putting on his Facebook. And you know one funny thing? About 50-something people liked it on his Facebook page.
It's so brazen, isn't it? It's so brazen to do that, but I think you must have shocked him. You turned him around shouting his name. It was almost like a teacher telling him off. You maintained that role even though you got stabbed.
Yeah. Yes.
And I know that after that there must have been some impact on your family from that, because how do you explain? It's not, you go to school. I train teachers how to restrain pupils and how to manage challenging behaviour, and when it comes to knives, we say get out of there. There isn't any safe way of taking a knife from someone. So you don't expect your dad to go to work and to come back stabbed. Maybe if you're a police officer or a security officer, you could be prepared for that. But surely your family weren't prepared for that.
To work and start getting ready to defend himself in case of any knife attack at workplace. So just ordinarily going to my normal work.
Yeah.
And at the time of incident, my first son was in, I think, year 8 or something like that, or year 9.
Yes.
I think it was in year 9. And the incident just, so I was just feeling how could it have affected him. And also my wife was a teacher that time, although he's still teaching now in a college, but that time she was teaching in a school as well. It really affected her so much that she was even afraid to get back into the classroom. So the whole family, it affected almost every one of them one way or the other. But somehow, as we discuss through it, as we, I share with them how I feel, and also share with me how they feel, we seem to have been getting through it and over it.
Good.
We are managing to get over it, but still is an experience that will never go away.
Of course.
Once in a while, the flashback, comes up, and we've been coping so far.
And how do you feel? Have you forgiven the young man that stabbed you?
Yes, I felt when things happen in life, the more you bear the grudge, the more it affects and drown the person emotionally. So if I keep, bearing grudge in my mind, I'm going to be hurting more in my mind. It's going to be affecting every other thing around me. It might be affecting my family, my new job. It might be affecting everything. But the moment I forgave him and I let go, I became free in my mind. I was able to focus on new things. I was able to focus on things I can do in the future, actually, to help myself, to help every other person in that kind of situation. So I forgave the boy, and probably because of my Christian faith, I believe there's no point to keep bearing the grudge, trying to retaliate or find out where he will be to go and revenge. I just forgive him and let go so that I can move on in my life. And then I thank God I took that step, and it has really helped me to move on and move to a new job, a new job that I really enjoyed. Secondly, I also looked at the boy's background.
Yes.
It was such that the day in the court that the parents came, and I expected the parents to show a sign of remorse or kind of say sorry to this teacher that was stabbed by their son.
Yeah.
But in court, they sat at the far end. They never even looked at me where I sat. They didn't bother to say sorry. They showed no remorse, no concern. Immediately after the judgment, after the sentence, they all walked away. They didn't even say any word. So that kind of attitude, I started feeling the kind of environment the boy grew up from. And probably the boy himself may need help.
That's right.
He might be a person that will need help to come off that kind of attitude and that kind of behavior. So that's why I said I felt in my heart to help myself and to the best thing is just to forgive him and move on with my life.
Positivity breeds positivity, and negativity breeds negativity. I completely agree with what you're saying. And it's interesting you touch on revenge as well, because from working in security, I've heard stories of revenge, and I've heard stories of people getting revenge on each other. And the one thing I'd say is, when does it all end? because that's how wars happen. You know, one person does something and another person retaliates. You just think, where does it end? And as you say, the background, the backstory of why people behave the way they do, and perhaps the parents didn't know how to react because we've never been in that situation in court before with one of our children there.
Yeah, maybe they didn't know, but normally, a normal somebody that something like that has happened.
Yes.
And it's taken up to 3 months by that period of time. I think the proper thing is to say, "Oh, sorry." Even if they're not happy with the school, they're not happy with the government, they're not happy with any environment, this kind of would have brought, okay, for this innocent man, I was just doing my job.
Yes.
They could have said, "Oh, sorry," not that they're accepting any liability, just to say sorry. I wouldn't know. I don't know how to relate to that, and but probably, as you said, maybe they didn't know how to handle it. I don't know. Probably, who knows? And as you said, revenge actually is not the best way because it has its own knock-on effect. Trying to revenge back and so on and so forth. So I think is not the best way forward.
Absolutely. This really brings me on to one of the other things I know you've been quite involved with. You've done quite a bit of work with the police following this, haven't you? To sort of give back a little bit.
Yeah, I did that. The police approached me if I can support them in launching arms amnesty.
Yes.
And that was an opportunity one can use to, make the society better. Because at that period of time, it was felt that the amount of arms in the hands of the youth and the hands of people in the society was quite growing and quite challenging.
Yes.
So at that period of time, to launch that arms amnesty, asking people to surrender their arms and they will not be persecuted. They can do it during the day or in the night just to drop it somewhere. That could help to reduce the number of arms in circulation. So that was I was quite interested in that, and I joined the police and we did that, and it was quite a huge success. Loads of people, surrendered their arms. I think that was the highest number so far. We had that period of time for people that people surrendered their arms, and it worked.
Yeah, it does. It does work. I've seen some. I know there's some amnesties, and I look at the halls, and I think, well, that's just somebody's knife from the kitchen. That's just somebody's antique rifle. But some of the weapons that I saw handed in following that amnesty, there was knuckle dusters with knives on. There was machetes. There's no lawful reason for you to have half of the stuff that they handed in. And it might be an avid collector, but if they get into the wrong hands, as we've seen before, they used. It's impulsive. There's something called coupling as well. They associate it with suicide, and they talk about that. For example, the Golden Gate Bridge, whilst they had protect nets underneath to catch people whilst it was being built, nobody jumped off the bridge. And somebody would say, well, if you're feeling suicidal, you just find somewhere else to jump. And they found it's not always. It's not always the case. And what coupling says is if somebody's of that mindset and there's an opportunity which couples with it, then they can. And I think if that boy hadn't had access to knives as easily, would it have happened maybe?
Yeah, for sure. If it hasn't got the access to the knife at that point in time, probably he would have found alternative way of sorting himself out.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't involve other lives. So you're right. Really, is if we can find a way of removing all those kind of arms from people's hands, it might be a way. It might not be the total solution, but it might be a way to reduce a number of occurrences. As you said, if you see the kind of arms people, surrendered, handed in, many of them were quite frightening.
Yes.
And you keep wondering, is this what people have got in their possessions? And how did they get such arms?
Yeah, and without an amnesty, they wouldn't be handed in because, as you said, those are the questions people are asking. But at least they're off the street with no questions asked, aren't they? So, what's your view on restorative justice? Because I've been seeing some great stuff done with restorative justice. How do you feel about it? Obviously, your case is a good example with you forgiving the person.
Yeah. Restorative justice is quite good and it works very well, especially where the perpetrator, is remorseful.
Yes.
Where he's sorry, feels sorry for what he has done, and the purpose of, punishment or going to prison or kind of sentencing is to make the person feel sorry, or probably going through hard work or uncomfortable environment, will be able to feel that, oh, I'm really sorry for what I've done. Had I known better, I couldn't have done it that way. But if for the case where somebody is not showing any remorse and the parents are not showing remorse, it might be difficult for that restorative justice to take place. But where both parties, where the perpetrator is sorry for what he has done, why not? Is good to have a restorative justice and people move on. For me personally, I have nothing anymore against the family, against the boy. So if the boy feels sorry for what he has done, he's welcome to call for that. We can meet and shake hands, and that is it. But where he's still feeling that what he was right for what he did, and he wasn't sorry. So you find out that I wouldn't call for the restorative justice for me, because I'm just moving on. If they want to call for that, by all means, I don't have any grudge against them. If they want that, that's great. The police will arrange for that, and we'll have a meeting and shake hands. But where they still feel it's not their fault, or I don't know how can they put it. I don't know. Where they feel they don't feel sorry for what they've done.
No,
I've moved on. I've moved on.
That's good. That's great. I mean, I think, like you say, there's a background to it. It sounds like there was an element of it being racially motivated. It sounds like he was telling people he was going to do it beforehand. We do quite a lot of work abroad, and in the UK we tend to call them jails and prisons. And it took me a while to get used to this term corrections, and I had to sort of understand what they meant by corrections. And it was almost like these people in society are broken. We're going to put them into this sort of factory where they get corrected and they get better. And I think, do you even need a building for that? Sometimes it might be a case of getting people to sit down and say, with certain crimes, to say, let's not have the jails full of people. Let's not have this big money-making factory as it's become in some countries. And let's try and address what the person's done. Because if it was a big mistake, do we need to set them onto a path of crime by putting them in jail where they're going to be mixing with other criminals and perhaps honing their skills?
It's actually a mixed feeling. Some people will go to jail and their life will change for better. While some people will go to jail and their life will worsen and they meet other like-minded criminals and they get worse. There's no clear way to it. But as you said, discussions helps a lot. Discussions about the crime, what happened, how to avoid it. There's a way it could be discussed. And it will help a lot, and there will be a change of heart. But if it is that only just staying in prison may not really make much of a change, really. But while in a confined environment, if there's kind of discussions about the crime and how to avoid it in the future, or the impact of such crime on the victims and also on the victim's family, and beyond that, even on the perpetrator's family as well. Some people, when their son commits a crime, they also have they feel it, they have the impact, they also suffer it.
Yeah, it's sins of the father.
It has impact, on both parties. So if this is discussed properly and the boy has a willing heart to listen and change, that will make a lot of difference.
Yes.
So there's no clear cut of best way to, but maybe combination of all of them.
I think so.
Combination of all of them.
A multi-agency approach with everybody looking at it from sort of from the medical side, right across through the social side and looking at it that way. The incident that in question was quite a harsh one. Prior to that incident, what behaviour have you had to manage? Because that didn't sound like it was going to end up with somebody resulting in being stabbed. It wouldn't result in the horrific injuries that you got. What other behaviour have you had to manage apart from that? Anything as extreme as that before?
Well, there's nothing of a physical contact kind of behavior that I've ever come across. Probably normal behaviors you expect in classroom setup, probably being chatty, being noisy,
not listening,
chatting,
disruptive,
not listening, disruptive, all those kind of things. Which there are several ways to manage it. Either you send them, probably put them in isolation, or move them to a separate seat, or move them around, or there are kind of behavior
tools and behavior strategies. I understand
strategies, yes, to manage those. But never come across that kind of physical, behavior or physical aggression, before. But this was quite strange, and as I said before, it was a strange one.
Absolutely, it absolutely was. Yeah. Do you think that schools are becoming more dangerous places or more violent places, or do you think it's just that we're more aware of it now?
I think what happens in school is a reflection of what is happening in the society.
It's a great
when these young ones go to school, they carry whatever they've learned, what they are, they take it to school, and they exhibit it there as well. So I think we can, in as much as we can pick up, we can start looking at behavior in school. We can also look at behavior at home, behavior outside the school. How do we manage our children? How do we, advise them? How do we support them? Some children will be outside very late in the night, and some parents may not be bothered where their children are. And the kind of friends their children are mixing with, that is a part of the parents. And then in school, I think there should be, I think some schools now are beginning to have a laid down rule that has to be observed. I know most schools do that, but then in an area where we have moral decadence in the society, and schools located in such areas, we may have to have a more stringent measure to manage behavior in that area as well. Behavior varies from school to school, depending on location. Some schools are located in an area where there might not be much crime reports, while some are located in an area where crime report is or crime incident is so high. So depending on where schools are located, I think there should be also a commensurate measure or behavior measure in place to be able to support such school. So some schools are doing well, some are not doing as much as they're supposed to. And there are many factors that contribute to that as well.
Yeah, so you think there's a correlation between the social situation in the area and the school? I have to agree with that. I mean, where you've got schools in close proximity, you might have a reflection of different schools, but it could be just because of the cohort of children that are coming there. I know some schools accept children that maybe other schools don't, and they have to put more measures in place to stop children being disaffected. Because if you don't like going to school, you're not going to follow the rules, are you? And if your friends or your peer group are impressed by you not following the rules or carrying a knife or acting in a certain way, it can easily influence your own behaviour.
For sure, yes, yeah.
How do you feel about searching? Do you think if there'd been more stringent searching procedures on the school you were at, it might have prevented the attack? Or do you think that's sometimes futile, having children searched at the entrances?
There could be occasional searching. It should be allowed that occasionally some students could be searched.
Yes.
Maybe they may map out just the way we do fire alarm testing.
That's right.
Unannounced, everybody just comes out to the fire safety area. It could be that occasionally the school may decide, okay, this day all students will be searched. Privacy respected, they will just searching what they have in their bags and whatever they come with. And just occasional, that may deter students coming to school with weapons because they wouldn't know the day there might be a general search, you know. And all that said again, depending on where the school is located, it might not be necessary for schools in certain areas, but for some schools in some areas, that occasional search, unannounced search, could be a way forward.
Yeah, I mean, there's already legislation and guidance in place which allows the searching of children under certain circumstances and their possessions, their bags, trays, and lockers. And this is something we've advised on. But one of the problems is that I think a lot of schools are scared about it because they're worried that they're going to discriminate. I think a lot of schools don't know what the powers are and when they're allowed to search. And like you say, if there was some kind of ethical policy in place that just let children know, on occasion, we might ask to search your bags, I think that would act as a deterrent for many people.
Yeah, exactly. The aim is not to catch them with the weapons. The aim is to deter them from bringing weapons to school.
Yes.
You know?
Good. So what have you been doing on the lockdown then, Vincent? Because it's a definite change. I know you've been doing some work online. Have you been getting to spend much time with the family?
Yes, as a lecturer now, the university is locked down. It's closed. So every of our lectures, assessment is done online. We've just about to finish examination, online exams.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting. This is the first time I'm doing online examination with my students and doing online teaching. So, but it's been going very well. It's kind of challenging when you have your family, younger children around.
Yes.
You have to manage your family around and also manage your workload. But it's going on very well. It's good. It's going on well.
Good. That's great to hear. Well, I'm so grateful I got the chance to interview you. I know initially we'd had a plan to get you to speak at our conference, which is still going to happen, but it might just be postponed for a little bit. So we'll definitely be in touch in the future. Is there anything else you want to add, or have we covered everything there?
For now, not really. Not really. I think we've discussed exhaustively on all the points.
Yeah.
But thank you very much. Whenever you feel I should be involved with your, face-to-face discussion, that's fine. No problems. I will come around.
We'll look forward to it, Vincent. You enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And you too.
You too. Thanks. Goodbye now.